Welcome to another edition of Politics Done Right. My name is Egberto, Willies, your host. Today, we are honored to have a special guest, someone that has been with us before under a different title. We have Jerry Ashton, founder of End Veteran Debt, a 501c3 private charitable foundation. He's going to be with us. He's a former Navy veteran. Jerry was also co-founder of RIP, Rest in Peace Medical Debt. That was also a 501c3 that cleared over $12 billion in debt, in medical debt. So this guy knows what he's doing. So again, welcome, my brother from another mother. Good day to you, Mr. Jerry Ashton. How are you doing today?
I'm just ducky, Egberto, and yeah. I can't read my R's, so don't ask me to do that.
Well, I mean, I think you made a good attempt at that, and you did a good job. But anyway, look, I don't know if you are ever going to say, I'm going to settle down. It seems like you're always moving forward. You're always doing something. You're always helping folks out. That seemed to be your nature. Tell me a little bit about your new project. And I don't know how new it is, but End Veteran Debt. We are in a society where we ask a lot of people to sacrifice. They sacrifice to keep our country one of the most powerful, if not the most powerful country in the world. Yet when it's time to take care of the ones who pretty much ensure our safety, etc., we're not too kind with them. Why don't you tell me about your new project?
Well, thank you for asking, and thank you, audience, for listening to this magnificent podcaster and fellow human being, Egberto Willies. Yes, there is something new and bigger. What happened with RIP Medical Debt, if you remember, I and a friend by the name of Craig Antico wandered into Occupy Wall Street back in 2011 and became intrigued with the messages we heard there. We were a couple of former debt collectors ourselves. And when we listened to the complaints, all the wrongs that need to be righted, there was one that we were particularly suited to do something about, and that was medical debt. We know how to collect medical debt. We just didn't realize what a scourge it was and the harm it was doing to America. So we decided to switch gears, re-engineer ourselves, and begin the process of eliminating medical debt. And it was just a wild idea 10 years ago, not much of a chance for success. Nobody talked about medical debt back in 2014, but today you can't open a newspaper without reading about it. And that's because of what we started, just because we were touched. Just like I'm hoping that your listener and viewer will be touched by the story I'm going to tell you about veterans. So yeah, we walked into Occupy Wall Street as debt collectors, walked out as debt forgivers. Now I'm going to switch gears and pay attention to veterans, because veterans, even though there are about 18 million veterans in America, that comprises 6% of our population. Guess what? They account for twice as many people who are homeless, twice as many people who commit suicide, twice as many people who are in various forms of financial and societal dangers. So let me ask you this: does the date June 6 mean anything to you or your listeners?
I think you should enlighten us, but I think it has something to do with the Second World War, correct?
I believe it does. June 6, 1944.
D-Day?
D-Day. D-Day. That's when the Americans and their allies stormed the beaches at Normandy in order to liberate Europe. When that job was completed and they began coming home in 1945, they were greeted like heroes. Today, not so much. Our veterans who are returning today face a much different America. So I'm not going into the seemingly endless statistics of how they're affected. But we're here to change that. We're going to change the story, just like we changed the story on medical debt. So we're taking June 6th seriously, and we launched Operation Debt Day. It's no longer D-Day, it's Debt Day. And between June 6th, 2024, going forward to June 5, 2025, we are going to set about to raise enough money to abolish $80 million worth of veteran debt.
Did you say 80 billion as in a B?
Yeah, and million as in M.
Oh, okay, okay. That's what I hoped you had said.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
And by the way, it's not just medical debt. We're taking a look at any debt that encumbers or harms a veteran. You're talking about predatory debt, like payday loans, car title notes, scam educational systems, schools. We're talking about debt of necessity, like putting tires on the car so you can get to work. We're going to locate that debt and we're going to get rid of it. That's our job.
Now, let me ask you this. Are you going to be doing this on an individual per person basis, or you're going to try to aggregate this into, let's say, people from one particular debt collection agency has all the data for this group of folk? Or is this going to be people put in requests to your company, your 501c3, or how's that going to work?
Now, let me explain how debt buying occurs. First of all, very few people know that their debt, medical debt, payday loan, credit cards, when they are defaulted on and the creditor can't get their money, they'll sell that debt to a debt buyer on the open market for pennies on the dollar. When they have that debt in their possession, they then either begin the collection process or they sell it out to other collection agencies who then pursue you and me for the full amount. That's as bottom feeding as you can get.
Mm-hmm.
So what we do is we're going to go to the same debt market, but instead of concentrating on medical debt, we're going to concentrate on that debt of necessity and predatory debt, and we're going to compete with the collection agencies and we're going to buy it. And once it's in our control, then we're going to forgive it. Now, by the way, I teamed up again with Craig Antico, going back in time and pushing it forward. He has a company called ForgiveCo, which is a public benefit corporation that he started in order to approach the problem of debt in particular. So he and I got together and I said, Craig, let's you and me work just on veteran debt. Do debt of other kinds with other people, but let's take care of veterans. And he is now partnering with me, he and his son, Eric Antico. So we're pretty happy about that. So what does that mean to somebody who's listening? No, you can't write to me and ask me to forgive your debt. But I will want you to write to me because I'm going to connect you with local charities that can. You see, work as a foundation, as opposed to a charity. When we bring money in, we can put that money out to individual charities that work with us, or we can just do the work ourselves. But this is a national and local approach, thinking globally, but acting locally. So we're partnering with 80 different organizations, veteran, civilian, anybody that has a care about veterans, and each one of them we're going to co-fundraise so that in their area, which is getting to your point, in their home state, we're going to have them with us raise enough money. And by the way, that's $50,000 to buy $1 million worth of veteran debt and then forgive it, sending letters from us to the people whose debt has been forgiven and say, guess what? You'll never hear from a bill collector again. And by the way, before I forget, endveterandebt.org. That's where you got to go to help us.
And veteran are plural or singular?
Single, and veteran, and debt is DEBT, endveterandebt.org.
I will have that in the blog post accompanying this podcast. And by the way, this will be aired on KPFT 90.1 FM Houston and likely throughout the entire Pacifica network. Now, here is the question. Uh, Now, this is service that there are two things that I think you need. One of is the people that need help and the people who are willing to help your organization buy the debt at pennies on the dollar so that it can actually be forgiven. Because as you get income in, you're buying that debt not to go after somebody, but you're buying that debt to forgive it. And now, are people specifically going to, let me, I guess I better ask it this way. You're going to randomly buy debt, and for the people who are forgiven, send them out a letter. Is that correct?
That is correct. And so there are two people I'm reaching out to by way of your show. Number one, the veteran who needs that help, because we want to know about it. We want to see what we can do for you locally. And number two, any organization, faith-based community, business, if you want to partner with us so we can co-fundraise to take care of that debt, we'd love to have you to be one of 80 organizations, as each of the 80 organizations will abolish $1 million for the medical debt, symbolically $1 million for each year that has passed since June 6, 1944, where 4,000 Americans and allies lost their lives on just that one day.
That is exceptional. And how is it working thus far?
Well, you're talking to the Jerry Ashton of 10 years ago. We're just starting this.
Right.
But I do have a track record, and I have a great team working with me, and already people who are lining up to partner. And I want to point out another interesting thing. I'm using my background as a former Navy journalist to put together a media room so that when we're doing the work that we're doing, we're going to get stories out about how we're helping people in Austin or Dallas or Washington, D.C. or the Northwest. So we're going to have local stories written because we want people who are doing good to be known. And we believe in impact awareness. And what greater impact is there than to be able to help your fellow man and woman who are veterans who signed a blank check one time that said, I'm willing for America to cash this check up to and including my life. And when they come home, they can't even get that. they can't get anything in the way of a check cash except payday loan. So that's just too wrong.
Now, there's another aspect to this, and I'm not sure exactly how it works. I think in reading some of your literature, I think one of the services you're actually attempting, I don't know if you're attempting to offer or what, is that after this debt is forgiven, that the person's credit history is cleared or made whole. Is that a part of it as well?
Um, would you restate that?
Yeah, in other words, one thing is paying a debt off, but then
Yeah.
there's a history of that debt in the person's credit record. Are
No,
you also doing anything about that?
yes, we're making sure that in the cases where we find a debt mark that we're going to be taking that off. But here's another important thing: education. We want to educate at our site, endveterandebt.org. We're going to have an educational system by way of making sure that veterans don't get caught in the trap. Financial literacy.
Financial literacy, right?
Yes, very important. So what we're doing is number one, we're making people aware. And we know that there's some people who say, you know, that's wrong and that needs to be righted. So they're touched. And when somebody's aware and touched, they want to know more. What's this all about? Is this a scam? People actually ask me about that when I started RIP Medical Debt. How can you make any money? You don't make any money. That's why it's called a charity. So they want to get educated. How can veterans defend themselves from these bottom feeders, the people that will take advantage of them? And if they do they have an ally, groups of people who know what they're talking about, subject matter experts who will step up and say, you need to do this and this and this. Now, there are a lot of local organizations, and particularly the DAV, that does a great job of working with veterans. Lots, if you Google veteran charities, you'll see them by the thousands. My question would be, why should there be a charity to begin with? If anything, our organization would like to work ourselves out of business. We'd like to imagine a world in which veterans are considered a test case of how to run things right. I'm talking about everything from the VA, which does some things absolutely wonderful, and in other cases, they have actually harmed the veteran that they're working with. People need to understand that. They need to change that. And the only way that things change in the powers that be is that if enough citizens get, shall we say, annoyed. Is that strong enough for you?
I think actually annoyed and engaged.
And exactly right, exactly. And do something about it. At the simplest end of it, make a donation. We'll put it to good use. The second way is to become what we call a plank owner. Are you familiar with that term, Egberto?
No, I'm not.
In naval lore, that meant any enlisted person or officer who came on board a ship while it was being commissioned would be called plank owners.
Ah.
It was an honorarium. To become a plank owner with us, $500. But think of the fact what that $500 will do, multiplied by, well,
several thousand.
Every nickel is $1. So
Right.
dollars worth. So if you will do that, that will be great. And of course, we're looking for people who want to work with us in Operation Debt Day, so that someday we'll have an Operation Undebt Day.
That we can all live toward that operation on that day. Well, my dear friend Jerry, tell me something that I should have asked you that I didn't.
I think you've done a great job. I guess I would like to bring up the fact that money is not the root of all evil. Debt is the root of all evil. And when we allow people to slip into debt and then not give them a helping hand, have you ever heard of the term social determinants?
Oh, yeah. Yes.
A social determinant is anything upstream from an incident or an accident that contributed to that incident or that accident. For example, if you're living in a food desert, or if you're living in a transportation desert, that will affect your health. It'll affect your ability to get to a job. Are you aware of the fact that debt itself is a social determinant of suicide?
Yes, yes.
We want to get rid of two things: their debt and eliminate and reduce the amount of suicide.
If you get rid of the thing that determines further action, then you solve the problem of further whatever would have come from that said bad action. Excellent. Well, look, Jerry, it's always been a pleasure speaking to you. I have a whole lot of respect for the work that you do. Thank you for the work that you do, and please keep doing the work that you do. It is invaluable, and I'm sure just like you got a whole lot of folks out of debt with the RIP medical debt, you will also with End Veteran Debt. Thank you so kindly for having been on Politics Done Right.
Thank you, and thank your listeners for learning more about this wrong that needs to be righted.
We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above the fray, etc. If you really like these videos that we do, I want to ask a big favor. Please go ahead, number one, subscribe to our channel, and number two, please join if you can. Thank you so kindly for watching. Keep watching. Please remember to share. We must populate the entire internet with our progressive message, a message that we know is what most Americans say that they want. So help us, please join.